We are collecting rose hips for the rosehip oil that you're going to see us make. You see in the back of them, there's my sister-in-law. She decided to join me. There she is. And yeah, I'm just going to turn this around and show you what we found. So these are all rose bushes. And we are collecting, hold on, I'm going to put my gloves back on because I get needled really easy. Okay, here we go. So we're just finding all the rose hips that we can find. We're gonna leave some behind for the birds. So now we're moving on to this garden. And here they are. Here's some examples. Just take these and we just pop them right off. And we throw them in our bucket. Oh, that's better. I cleaned off the lens. So here's all of the rose hips you can see here, in case my camera was blurry on the last one. And we just pick these. Okay, so now that I'm back home, I'm going to take off all of the excess foliage on the rose hip and divide it into buckets. So I'm just going to remove this here right off the end and then drop the rose hip fruit right into that bucket. And you can see it, the end there just comes off really quite easy. So what are rose hips and what are the benefits of rose hips? Well, the rose hips are the fruit that you find underneath the flower buds in the fall. And rosehip oil is rich in vitamin A, C, E, and essential fatty acids. These fatty acids are anti-inflammatory and can improve signs of aging, or so it is known, for pigmentation and moisturizing the skin. Since rosehip oil is rich in vitamin A, it can help stimulate collagen and improve the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. So as you can see, right inside here, I'll open it up for you. See those seeds? Those lovely seeds inside there. That is what I am trying to get. So there is some delicious, wonderful, amazing oil inside all of those seeds. And by me putting them inside the carrier oil that I'm going to do, which is going to be the sweet almond oil, we will extract the oil out of those seeds and it will bind with that oil. Okay, so I'm getting near the top of this pot and I'm on my second bowl. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna fill this one up so that I know. So I'm gonna do 2 to 1 of sweet almond oil. That's the carrier I'm gonna use for this batch. And I'm gonna do a jojoba oil next. And so I'm gonna do 2 to 1 for this. That's what we do. And I'm gonna do 1 full bucket, which is a 4 quart bucket, and I'm going to multiply this by 2 for my carrier oil. So I'll do 2 buckets of oil to 1 bucket of this in my slow cooker. And I think I'm going to put a little bit of vitamin E oil, and I might even make 1 batch with some rose essential oil, just a couple of drops. I'm sure this is going to smell lovely on its own. That essential oils are just so good for your skin. So is the almond oil I'm going to use, as well as the rosehip, the seeds. Now, there are the seeds inside, and you can see that there's tiny little hairs. I don't know if that's going very well. But those hairs is what you make itching powder out of. It's very, very itchy. So I need to strain that really well, but that's what I want. I want to get the oil out of these seeds. Now, I'm not making rosehip seed oil. That's different. That's a completely different process than the rosehip oil that I'm using, because I'm going to use a carrier oil. So I'm just going to get the seed oil in here. Pardon me. Morning rush behind me. I'm doing this outside. What I was saying is the
if I were to try to extract the oil out of those seeds to make rosehip seed oil, I would need a factory and I would need 4 tons of these. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the oil out of these seeds and get it to bind in with the almond oil, which is a lovely oil filled with vitamin E. I'm going to add some vitamin E anyway, and then probably a little bit of rose essential oil, just a couple of drops. And it's going to be a lovely, lovely oil. So let's finish this up and go inside and get this all on the slow cooker. So I've left them out overnight on my front porch, and the reason I did that is because we got a frost last night. So everything is still pretty frosty this morning. And I wanted them to get soft. And so you can see how soft they are now. And these seeds are just gonna come right out. And that's what I want. The ones that did not get cold overnight are these ones. And look, I can squeeze that as hard as, I'm gonna need a hammer to break this guy down. This is my bucket that I did not leave out overnight. And this is the bucket that I did leave out overnight. And what happens is I forced a frost onto them and they get softer. So I'm gonna bring them in the house and run them under hot water, rinse them off for a while. And then I'm gonna break them open, just to make sure that they're open. And then I'm going to put them in my slow cooker for about 4 to 8 hours. I'm going to double the amount of rose hips that I have with my carrier oil. This batch I'm using sweet almond oil, and it should be wonderful. And then I will strain it, make sure that all that little hair is gone, which will be easy enough to do when I strain it. I use a muslin cloth, and anything I have that I can't use, I just throw in my garden, and the birds come along and they eat it. And the best way to process these rosehip seeds is for the birds to eat them and then poop them out and then spread them all over the neighborhood. And then you can grow wild roses. And when I harvest the wild roses, I leave about 90% on the bush for the birds. So I only do small batches at a time. As you can see, this isn't a lot. This will get probably maybe 20 bottles I'll get out of this. But if I were to take all of the berries off all of the bushes, the birds would have nothing to fatten themselves up for winter. So we share. I take a little bit and they get the rest. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty satisfied that this is a pretty full bowl. My slow cooker can only hold so much, so I'm just gonna leave the rest out here to sit in the cold, because it is still a chilly morning this morning. And I'm just gonna throw this over for my birds. And they like to go in there. So I'm gonna bring this in the house with me. And I'm gonna let this batch sit out here and get chilly too. All right, let's do this next. Okay, so we're back and my slow cooker is warming up. So I have my rose hips. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to put them in a bag, a big Ziploc bag. And I want to break them up. I want to get into this just like this one. And then I'm going to put it in my slow cooker. So let's just start off by putting a few of these. Maybe about half into this bag. I'll just go ahead and use my rolling pin. I can't find my rolling pin. I'm going to use this wooden spoon. That's going to work too.
You see, I'm just breaking them up out of there. I'm going to measure that. See how many I have so that I can get. Okay, let's see how much this comes to. And see how I have some hanging on? Well, I want all of that. So let me just make sure that I push it all out and get my spatula. I want all those seeds. I don't want to waste any. So basically, I just go in and I just scrape down the side of the bag and I get everything labeled. So this is what we have. We have about 2 quarts. And I want to double that. So I'm going to throw that inside my slow cooker. So that's inside the slow cooker now. And I'm not worried about stems because I'm going to rinse that all, filter that all out. Okay, so now let's get our almond oil. So I am using sweet almond oil, and I want to get up to here because our rose hips went to here. I want to double it. Oops. Okay, so I now have double the oil, and I'm just going to pour that right inside. Here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this set for between 4 and 8 hours. I'll just probably let this go all day long. And then I'm going to cool it before I drain it. Or sorry, before I strain it. And then we should be able to make a second batch. All right, so now we're going to just put the lid on this and we're going to just let it cook for 8 hours. All right, so it's been 4 hours. Let's see how it's doing. It looks lovely. Okay, so everything seems soft enough that I can go ahead and use my masher now. What I like to do is just get out a potato masher and just go in and just break up any of them that have not broken up yet. Look at, here's my lovely rose from my garden. My rose from my garden. And I think I got them all now. So now I'm just going to sanitize the mason jars that I'm going to strain through my muslin bags and store them in these jars. So after I take the jars out of the water, which I use to sterilize, this is the jar I'm going to put it in. I'm using an amber jar, and that is to keep the light off of it. So I'm just using this little muslin bag, and I just put it inside the jar. And this particular one is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but that's okay. There you go. It's just in there. And now I'm just going to use a ladle and I'm just going to fill it up. And I want to strain out all the beads, all the seeds, all the fruit, all the pulp. All I want is the oil. out of this. So I've let it cool down a little bit after I turned it off. And so it does get a little messy, and I like to just clean up my jars, move them aside, and don't forget to date your oil because it's only good for approximately 1 year. So after I empty this out entirely, I will fill up the rest of my sterilized jars. Okay, so I'm going to turn my stove back on, and I'm going to disinfect the lids. I want to clean off all of these first. This is a job where you have to wash your hands a lot. I'm going to wash this pot out, sanitize my hands regularly with that. So now I'm just going to clean off these jars. And my work surface. I'm going to drop all of the lids in here and sanitize them. Any one little bit of germ to get into anything. So I wash my hands a lot. I wash all my utensils. I wash everything regularly. And yes, I do spill it all the time. I drop everything all the time. So here it is. We've got the first strain of this rosehip oil in these jars. And then I'm going to do a second straining, and then they are done for the night. Just cleaning them off so when I pick them up to strain them, they do not slip out of my hand. I will leave that there. Okay. I've got my other jars over there that had just been sanitized in boiling water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another muslin bag, and I'm just going to strain each one until I have 4 equal parts in 4 equal jars. And the reason I'm doing a second straining is because I want to make sure that I get everything out of there. Any kind of extra little seeds, any more of the hairs. I'll just transfer it right over to the next jar. Second strain, didn't get anything, not a single bead or anything, but it's just good practice to do that. So I'll let this cool, and tomorrow I'll put some vitamin E and a little bit of rose essential oil, and then that's it. And here we go. There are 4 mason jars full of this delicious rosehip oil. Now I'm going to wash up everything, and then we'll get back to you when we're going to do the essential oils and the vitamin E. Okay, so my bottles have come in. I ordered these off of Amazon. I'm just trying to cut it open with just one hand. And I opted for these little pink, kind of a pink colored bottle. And look at those. Aren't those pretty? Now I am going to sanitize them by putting them in a pot of boiling water, as I do with everything. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to stand these bottles up so that the water can drain out of them. But as you can see, it's not as easy as it sounds. So whatever, just let them lay down and dry. They're going to just dry on their own anyway. And then I will get ready to I'll let them cool off first. And then I will put all of the oil inside of them, and then we'll go ahead and make labels. These are going to be lovely. Okay, so my bottles have cooled off, and I am going to attempt with one hand while holding the phone to start pouring this lovely oil into these bottles. And I'm not going to make you hang around and watch it all because it is a little bit of a time-consuming effort. But yeah, they're going to look just lovely in here. I'm going to fill these all up, and then we're going to get to the labels, and we'll show you what they look like when I'm done. Okay, so I have now created the labels on Canva, and I am printing them through my Cricut. I've made a custom size label, so I didn't have to go and find that one and order it or anything. I just used the OL175. I switched over to the OL177. I first originally did it on clear, and then I decided to do it on white because it came out easier to see. So here I am, just labeling all of the jars and cleaning them all off, disinfecting them with alcohol on that paper towel. And then I put my label on, and they actually turned out quite lovely. All right, that is it. That is the end. And they look quite nice. And there is our all-natural organic rosehip oil. And thank you for following along. I hope that you get an opportunity to make your own as well. If you are interested in purchasing any of these, we are going to be putting them up on our website at www.brewmillcandlecompany.com. I will put a link down below. And they're just lovely. I really quite like these. They're just excellent for your skin. They're excellent for everything. And I quite like this. I think I'm going to put a few bottles aside for myself. But other than that, thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing.